The sound of sterling silver against fine china echoed through our family's dining room as my father set down his fork with calculated precision. That sound always preceded a lecture. I'd learned to recognize it years ago. "Daniel," he began, using my full name rather than Dan, another warning sign, "your mother and I have been patient. But it's time to have a serious discussion about your hobby." I suppressed a smile, taking another bite of my mother's roast beef. Hobby. That's what they called my technology company, the one currently finalizing a $4 billion IPO. Not that they knew that part yet. "You're 32, my father continued, glancing at my simple button-down shirt and khakis, deliberately chosen to maintain their perception of my struggling entrepreneur status. "Mark's youngest boy just made partner at Goldman. The Andersons' daughter is chief surgeon now. And you're still playing with computers," my sister Jessica finished, not bothering to hide her smirk. She sat across from me in her perfectly tailored Chanel suit, every inch the successful corporate lawyer they'd always wanted me to be. My mother reached across to pat my hand, her diamond tennis bracelet catching the light. "We just worry, darling. All those hours in that tiny office space barely making ends meet. There's no shame in admitting it's time for a real career." If they only knew that tiny office space was actually just my private thinking room in my company's 50-story downtown headquarters. "The consulting firm has an opening," my father added. "Senior analyst position. Robert owes me a favor. I could make a call." I took a sip of water, remembering the irony that I now owned the building his consulting firm operated from, through one of my holding companies. "Thanks, Dad, but I'm good with what I'm doing." Jessica rolled her eyes. "Good? You live in that starter apartment, drive a 5-year-old Volvo, and work insane hours on some app that nobody's ever heard of." If she only knew that nobody included half the Fortune 500 companies now using my software. Or that the starter apartment was actually the smallest unit I kept in a building I owned, just to maintain appearances. "Actually," my mother brightened, "Caroline Mitchell's son is looking for a roommate in the city. Much better neighborhood than your current situation. Maybe if you shared expenses." "Caroline Mitchell's son?" I couldn't help but laugh. "The one who tried to launch 3 failed startups using Daddy's money. At least he tried something legitimate," my father cut in. "Not this secretive project you won't even explain properly." "I've explained it," I said calmly. "We develop enterprise software solutions for—" "Stop," Jessica held up her hand. "Nobody wants to hear the tech babble. The point is, you're wasting your Stanford degree on some pipe dream." My mother's iPad chimed softly, her evening news alerts. She reached for it absently, probably checking the society pages she obsessed over. "You had such promise," my father continued. "Top of your class, offers from every major tech firm. Instead you chose to hole up in that office working on this." He waved his hand dismissively, "Startup fantasy." My watch showed 7 p.m. exactly. Right on schedule. "Speaking of which," Jessica leaned forward, "how are you affording rent these days? Those savings must be running pretty low. If you need a loan." "Oh my God." My mother's shriek cut through the dining room. Her iPad clattered against her water glass, screen facing up. There, in crisp high definition, was my face. Above it, the Forbes logo. Below, the headline, "Tech's newest billionaire. How Daniel Carter built a $4 billion empire in secret." The silence that followed was absolutely perfect. Jessica's fork slipped from her fingers, clattering against fine china. My father's face went from confident lecture to stunned disbelief in seconds. And my mother, she just kept looking between me and the iPad, mouth opening and closing without sound. What is this?" my father finally managed. I pulled out my phone, checking the notifications already flooding in. That would be Forbes' early release of tomorrow's cover story. They're announcing their 40 under 40 list. Looks like I made the cover. "Billionaire," Jessica whispered, grabbing the iPad. "This has to be a mistake. Your little software company, Nova Technologies," I supplied helpfully. "Currently valued at $4.2 billion pre-IPO. Though that number's probably conservative given the latest contracts." My mother's hand flew to her throat. But you live in that tiny apartment." "1 unit in a building I own," I corrected. "Along with about 30 other properties across the city." Amazing what you can acquire when everyone thinks you're struggling. My father stood abruptly, his chair scraping against hardwood. You've been lying to us. No, I said calmly. I've been succeeding. You just never bothered to understand what that looked like. I pulled out my own tablet, bringing up the company overview that would be released to the press tomorrow. Nova Technologies provides enterprise software to 60% of Fortune 500 companies. Our AI division is revolutionizing data processing. That tiny office you mock? It's actually a 100,000 square foot campus downtown. The building with the blue glass tower? Jessica's voice cracked. That's mine, I nodded. Along with the one housing your law firm, actually. Bought it last year through a holding company. Surprise. My mother was still staring at the Forbes article, scrolling frantically. Fourth youngest self-made billionaire. Revolutionary software design. Pioneering artificial intelligence. Daniel, why didn't you tell us? I leaned back, studying their shocked faces. Would you have believed me? Or would you have tried to control it, shape it, turn it into your version of success? My phone buzzed, messages already pouring in from relatives who'd seen the Forbes piece. Distant cousins suddenly remembering our close connection. Aunts and uncles who'd mocked my career choice now eager to reconnect. All this time, my father said slowly, while we lectured you about real jobs. I was building something bigger than you could imagine, I finished. But you were too busy pushing consulting careers and law firms to notice. Jessica was on her phone now, probably Googling me frantically. There's more, she whispered. Business Insider, Wall Street Journal. They're all running stories. Tech's hidden giant. The billionaire next door. Dan, how did we not know? I stood, straightening my deliberately modest clothes. Because you saw what you wanted to see. The struggling younger sibling. The son who wouldn't follow the conventional path. The startup that couldn't possibly succeed. My phone buzzed again, this time a message from my actual office. The IPO paperwork was ready for final review. If you'll excuse me, I gathered my things. I have an early morning tomorrow. Going public tends to involve a lot of meetings. Going public? My father seemed to be having trouble processing each new revelation. NYSE opening bell, I confirmed. You can watch it on CNBC. Though. I smiled slightly, you might want to update your stock portfolio first. Nova Technologies will be trading under NVT. As I walked toward the door, my mother finally found her voice. Wait. Next Sunday's dinner. Will you? Can't make it, I called back. Board meeting in Tokyo. But feel free to discuss my career choices without me. You've had plenty of practice. I paused at the threshold, turning back one last time. Oh, and Dad? About that consulting firm you wanted me to join? They might be looking for a new building soon. I'm raising their rent next quarter. The sound of my mother dropping her wine glass followed me out. Sometimes success doesn't need to announce itself. Sometimes it just needs to wait for the perfect moment to be revealed. And thanks to Forbes' impeccable timing, my moment had finally arrived. The morning after Forbes shattered my family's illusions, I sat in my actual office, the entire top floor of the Nova Technologies tower. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a perfect view of the city skyline, including the consulting firm building where my father was probably still trying to process last night's revelations. Your sister's been calling every hour since 6 a.m., my executive assistant Kate announced. Your parents have tried the main office line 14 times, and your mother's posted 3 times on LinkedIn about her brilliant entrepreneurial son. I smiled, scanning the morning's headlines on my digital wall. Nova Technologies, the stealth giant going public. Daniel Carter, tech's secret billionaire. Inside the mind of software's hidden genius. The Today Show wants an exclusive, Kate continued. CNN's been calling and your high school just reached out about giving a commencement speech. The same high school where the guidance counselor told me to be more realistic about my future? I raised an eyebrow. How interesting. My phone buzzed, a text from Jessica. We need to talk. Family meeting at parents' house tonight. Non-negotiable. Before I could respond, Kate's voice came through the intercom. Your father's in the lobby. He's demanding to see you. I checked the security feed. There he stood in his finest suit, looking significantly less commanding than he had during last night's lecture. Send him up. And Kate? Pull up the consulting firm's lease agreement. Minutes later, my father entered my office, his confidence faltering as he took in the space. The modern design, the technology, the clear symbols of power he'd never noticed his son accumulating. Quite a view, he managed finally. Better than the tiny office you imagined I worked from? I kept my voice neutral, remembering his countless dismissive comments. Daniel, he stepped forward, we need to discuss what you've done. Built a multi-billion-dollar company? Revolutionized enterprise software? Or successfully hidden it all from a family too busy criticizing me to notice? He sank into one of my visitor chairs, Italian leather worth more than his monthly salary. Why the deception? We're your family. Are we? I turned to face him fully. Because family usually supports each other. Instead, you and Mom spent years pushing me toward paths I never wanted. Jessica mocked every decision I made. You all treated my work like some phase I needed to outgrow. We were worried about you. No, I corrected. You were worried about appearances. About what the country club crowd thought. About maintaining your image of success. I pulled up the consulting firm's lease on my screen. Speaking of success, let's discuss your office building. Rents increasing by 40% next quarter. His face paled. You can't. The firm can't afford that. Should have read the lease terms more carefully, I replied. Or better yet, should have paid attention when your son was building an empire right under your nose. My phone buzzed, another message from Jessica. Dad's gone to talk sense into you. Don't do anything rash. Too late, I murmured, then addressed my father. The IPO bell rings in 2 hours. I have meetings to prepare for. Kate will show you out. Daniel, please. He stood, straightening his shoulders like he used to when laying down the law during my childhood. We're trying to understand. No, you're trying to regain control, I cut in. But that power dynamic ended the moment Forbes hit publish. I'm not the son who needs your career advice anymore. I'm the CEO taking his company public at a $4 billion valuation. Kate appeared at the door. Your executive team is ready for the pre-IPO briefing, Mr. Carter. Thank you, Kate. I turned back to my father. Give Mom my best. Dad? About that analyst position you offered? I just acquired the consulting firm that was hiring. Another subsidiary you never noticed I owned. As security escorted him out, my phone lit up with a message from my mother. Darling, I've invited the Mitchells for dinner tonight. Their son would love to discuss potential collaborations. I laughed, typing back, can't make it. Too busy being successful without the family connections you never thought I needed. Because this was just the beginning. The IPO would cement my public success. The real estate holdings would reshape downtown. And my family? They were about to learn that sometimes the child they tried to control had been controlling everything all along. The New York Stock Exchange's trading floor hummed with anticipation. Reporters jostled for position. Cameras trained on the opening bell platform where I stood in a perfectly tailored Tom Ford suit, no more playing down my success. 5 minutes to bell, Kate murmured beside me. Your family just arrived. I glanced toward the visitors' gallery. There they were, my parents, Jessica, even Caroline Mitchell and her startup expert son, all dressed like they'd planned to be here all along. Mother was already networking, probably telling everyone how she'd always believed in my vision. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. We need to talk after this. Family dinner tonight. Non-negotiable. I smiled, typing back. Actually, it is negotiable. Board meeting in an hour. Acquiring another company. Maybe one you've heard of. The trading floor screens lit up with Nova Technologies stats. Expected opening price. $175. Projected market cap. $4.8 billion. Pre-market trading already indicated we'd blow past those estimates. Mr. Carter, a CNBC reporter approached, microphone ready. Your family must be so proud. Did they always support your entrepreneurial dreams? I caught my father's flinch in the gallery. Actually, I replied, loud enough to carry, I built this company while they told me to get a real job. Sometimes the best motivation comes from proving people wrong. Mother's perfectly maintained smile cracked slightly. Jessica's phone nearly slipped from her manicured fingers. 30 seconds, Kate announced. I stepped to the bell platform, remembering all the Sunday dinners where they'd lectured me about wasting my potential. All the family events where they'd introduced me as their still finding himself son. All the times Jessica had mocked my little computer project. 10 seconds. The screens began the countdown. In the gallery, Caroline Mitchell's son, the one my mother had suggested as a roommate to save money, was frantically Googling my company on his phone. The bell rang. Nova Technologies, NVT, opened at $225, jumped to $280 within minutes. The trading floor erupted. Somewhere in the gallery, my mother was probably calculating how to work this into her country club conversations. Mr. Carter. Reporters swarmed. How does it feel to become one of the youngest tech billionaires? Your net worth just crossed $5 billion. Any plans to slow down? Will you be moving from your modest apartment now? I smiled, adjusting my custom Patek Philippe watch, the one I'd worn under cheap shirt sleeves for years. Actually, that apartment was just for show. Like most successful people, I learned the value of letting others underestimate you. Kate appeared at my elbow. Board meeting in 20. And your mother's trying to arrange a family celebration dinner at Le Cirque. Tell her I'm busy, I replied. But she might want to check who owns Le Cirque now. Acquired it last month through a subsidiary. The trading screens showed NVT hitting $300. My phone buzzed constantly, distant relatives, old classmates, former critics all trying to connect. A message from Jessica caught my eye. The law firm's managing partner just called an emergency meeting. Something about building ownership. I smirked, remembering the acquisition papers I'd signed yesterday. Better hurry to that meeting, sis. Your firm's about to learn who their new landlord is. As security cleared a path through the reporters, I caught sight of my father on his phone, probably calling his consulting firm about their lease. He'd soon discover they had new ownership too. Your parents are trying to reach the executive suite, Kate reported. Of course they are. I straightened my tie. Time to show them what their struggling son actually built. The Nova Technologies executive floor occupied the top 3 levels of our headquarters. Floor-to-ceiling windows, state-of-the-art everything, and a view that dominated the city. My family stood in the reception area trying to look like they belonged. Beautiful office. Mother attempted her society smile. Though perhaps a bit excessive? Like your attempts to control my life? I replied pleasantly. Or Jessica's weekly mockery of my career choices? Now Daniel, father stepped forward, we should discuss this as a family. Family. I laughed softly. We're only family now because Forbes made me a billionaire. Funny how that works. I walked to my window wall, looking down at the city I'd quietly reshaped while they thought I was failing. The consulting firm you wanted me to join? I own it now. Jessica's law firm building? Even that startup incubator space Caroline's son keeps failing in, I acquired it last week. But why? Mother whispered. Because you taught me an important lesson. I turned back to face them. Success isn't about following others' paths. It's about building your own, even if you have to do it in secret while your family undermines you. Jessica stepped forward, her legal training kicking in. The firm's lease is being terminated, I finished. Consider it severance for all those times you called my company a hobby. You can't just. Father started. Actually, I can. And I am. I pressed a button, and my digital wall displayed Nova Technologies' full portfolio. While you were pitying my struggling startup, I was building this. Every property, every acquisition, every success you were too busy judging me to notice. The stock ticker caught everyone's eye, NVT passing $350. Now, I checked my watch. I have a board meeting. We're discussing which companies to acquire next. Kate will show you out. Wait, Mother reached for my arm. The Mitchells are hosting a celebration dinner tonight. Everyone will be there. Everyone who mocked me? I raised an eyebrow. Everyone who dismissed my dreams. No thanks. I have a private jet waiting. Tokyo office needs attention. Private jet? Jessica whispered. 1 of 4, I confirmed. Though you probably missed that detail while telling everyone about your struggling brother who needed a roommate. As security arrived to escort them out, Father turned back. Son, please. We can fix this. No need, I smiled. I already fixed it. Built a billion-dollar company, reshaped the city's skyline, and proved every doubt wrong. But hey, at least now you have something impressive to share at country club dinners. After they left, Kate brought in the afternoon reports. Stocks stabilized at $365. You're trending on Twitter. And your mother's already updated her Instagram bio to mention her tech pioneer son. I laughed, remembering all the times she'd avoided mentioning my career at social events. Let her. Success is the best revenge, especially when it comes with a corner office they never thought you'd have. My phone buzzed one last time, a message from Jessica. Family dinner next Sunday. Please. We need to make this right. I typed back, can't make it. Too busy running the empire you said I'd never built. But feel free to discuss my success without me, you've had plenty of practice discussing my failures. Looking out over my city, watching the sun set behind buildings I owned, I smiled. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving people wrong. It's succeeding so spectacularly that they have to live with knowing how wrong they were. And I was just getting started.